Picture this. A billionaire who once commanded boardrooms across 3 continents, now sitting completely alone at a wedding where everyone pretends he doesn't exist. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the ballroom floor. Hundreds of guests in designer gowns and tailored suits laugh, toast, and celebrate. But there's one corner where the music seems quieter, where conversations die the moment people glance over. Sebastian Harlow grips the armrest of his wheelchair with trembling fingers. 3 years ago, this man owned half the city. His name appeared on skyscrapers. Politicians returned his calls within minutes. Now people cross the room to avoid making eye contact. The accident changed everything. Not just his legs. His entire world crumbled overnight. His wife left first. Then his business partners. One by one, friends stopped calling. The invitations dried up. Tonight marks his first social event since the divorce was finalized, and honestly, he's questioning why he even came. Poor Sebastian. Whispers drift past his chair. Such a shame what happened to him. But here's what nobody knows. What really destroyed this man wasn't losing his ability to walk. It was discovering that everything he thought mattered, everyone he trusted, vanished the moment he needed them most. He watches the bride and groom share their first dance. Their joy feels like a knife twisting in his chest. When was the last time anyone looked at him with genuine affection? When did he last feel wanted? The wedding planner rushes past, clipboard in hand, completely ignoring his presence. A waiter offers champagne to every guest in his vicinity, but somehow skips right over him. Even the photographer angles shots to crop him out of family photos. This is his reality now. Invisible. Forgotten. A ghost haunting his former life. Sebastian's jaw tightens. Maybe coming here was a mistake. Maybe he should call his driver, head home to that empty mansion, and accept that this is how his story ends. Alone, bitter, and completely irrelevant. He starts wheeling toward the exit, ready to disappear forever. But then something stops him cold. Tiny footsteps. Getting closer. Most adults have been steering clear of him all evening, treating him like he's contagious. So who on earth would be approaching now? And why does the sound of those small steps make his heart race with something he hasn't felt in years? Hope. What happens next will shatter everything these wedding guests think they know about the man everyone wrote off. A 6-year-old girl in a sunflower yellow dress marches straight toward Sebastian's wheelchair like she's on a mission. Every adult in the ballroom has spent the evening avoiding him. This tiny human? She's walking directly to him with zero hesitation. "Excuse me, mister," she says, placing her small hand on his armrest. Sebastian freezes. When did a child last speak to him? His throat feels tight. Everyone else has someone to dance with, Amar continues, studying his face with the brutal honesty only kids possess. "You look lonely too." The nearby guests stop mid-conversation. They're staring now, waiting to see how this plays out. Some probably expect him to send her away. Others might be calculating how quickly they can rescue this innocent child from the tragic billionaire. "I'm not much of a dancer anymore, sweetheart," Sebastian manages, his voice rougher than expected. "That's okay." Amara grins, revealing a missing front tooth. "My grandpa can't dance either, but he tells the best stories." "Do you know any good stories?" Something cracks inside Sebastian's chest. This little girl sees him, actually sees him. Not his disability, not his failures, just him. "Will you be my date for the rest of the party?" she asks, spinning once to show off her dress. "I promise I'm fun company." The ballroom goes completely silent. Sebastian feels tears threatening for the first time since the accident. This child, who owes him nothing, who gains nothing from his wealth or status, just offered him something priceless. Companionship. Acceptance. Simple human kindness. "I would be honored," he whispers. Amara claps her hands together. "Perfect. Can you reach the dessert table from your chair? Because I've been eyeing those chocolate strawberries all night." For the first time in 3 years, Sebastian laughs. Actually laughs. But here's what makes this moment even more powerful. Amara's mother is watching from across the room. Her expression isn't one of concern or pity. It's something else entirely. Something that suggests this little girl's act of kindness might be about to reveal a secret that will change both their lives forever. Because sometimes the smallest gestures create the biggest transformations. And sometimes a child's pure heart can see what every adult in the room has missed. What connection does this little girl have to Sebastian's past? Why does her mother look like she's seen a ghost? Subscribe now, because what happens next will prove that some meetings aren't accidents at all. Across the ballroom, Naomi Bennett's wine glass trembles in her hand. She's been watching her daughter's every move since Amara wandered off 5 minutes ago. Now she's witnessing something that makes her stomach flip. Her 6-year-old talking to Sebastian Harlow like they're old friends. Everyone knows who he is. The fallen empire. The tragic accident. The messy divorce that dominated headlines for months. Should I stop her? Naomi whispers to her sister beside her. But something makes her pause. She's never seen Amara so animated with a stranger. The little girl is gesturing wildly, clearly telling some elaborate story that has Sebastian leaning forward, actually engaged. Most adults treat him like he's made of glass now. Or worse, like he's invisible. Yet here's her daughter, completely oblivious to social awkwardness, treating him like any other person at this wedding. No pity. No careful tiptoeing around his condition. Just pure, honest connection. Naomi takes a step forward, then stops again. Because she sees something in Sebastian's face that catches her off guard. For the first time tonight, maybe for the first time in years, he looks genuinely happy. Not the polite smile he's been forcing for cameras. Real joy. When did she last see that kind of transformation in someone? Her heart pounds as a terrible thought crosses her mind. What if Amara is bothering him? What if he's just being polite because she's a child? What if she's making a scene that will embarrass their entire family? But then Sebastian throws back his head and laughs at something Amara said. Actually laughs. The sound carries across the room, and several guests turn to stare in amazement. I've never heard him laugh like that, someone whispers behind her. Not even before the accident. Naomi feels tears stinging her eyes. Her daughter has this gift, this incredible ability to see past what everyone else gets stuck on. Amara doesn't see a disabled billionaire or a tragic figure. She sees a person who needs a friend. Maybe that's exactly what he needs right now. Someone who treats him normal. Someone who doesn't handle him with kid gloves or whisper about him like he's already dead. Still, Naomi can't shake the feeling that this moment is bigger than it appears. Something about the way Sebastian looks at Amara feels familiar, almost like he's seeing a ghost. The ballroom erupts in hushed conversations. Did you see that little girl march right up to Sebastian Harlow? Brave kid. Most people won't even make eye contact with him anymore. It's sweet, but shouldn't someone rescue her? This is getting awkward. Sebastian hears every whisper. 3 years ago, people whispered about his business deals, his political connections, his charity donations. Now they whisper about whether a 6-year-old should be allowed near him. But for the first time since his accident, he doesn't care what they think. Amara is describing her pet hamster's elaborate escape from its cage last week. She uses sound effects and dramatic pauses that would put professional storytellers to shame. Sebastian finds himself completely captivated. And then Biscuit squeezed under my mom's bed, and we couldn't find him for 3 whole hours, she explains, eyes wide with remembered panic. What happened next? Sebastian asks, leaning closer. We put sunflower seeds by his cage and waited. Mom said patience always wins, even when you're scared. Something about that simple wisdom hit Sebastian harder than any business advice he's ever received. The bride's grandmother shuffles over, clearly appointed by other guests to handle the situation. Sweetie, she says to Amara in that tone adults use when they think they're being subtle, Maybe you should go find your mother now. Sebastian tenses. Here comes the polite rejection he's been expecting all evening. But Amara tilts her head and says, "Why? We're having the best conversation. Did you know Sebastian used to have a pet turtle when he was my age?" The grandmother blinks, clearly not expecting pushback from a first grader. "It's fine," Sebastian tells her quietly. "She's not bothering me. Actually, she's saving me," he thinks but doesn't say. More guests drift over, some curious, others concerned. Sebastian realizes he's become the center of attention in a way he hasn't experienced since before his world fell apart. But this feels different. Instead of being the object of pity or gossip, he's part of something genuine, something real. Amara reaches up and straightens his crooked boutonniere with a casual intimacy of someone who's never learned that touching disabled people might be inappropriate. "There," she says, satisfied. "Now you look perfect for our dance." "Wait, dance? I can't actually dance anymore, sweetheart," Sebastian says gently. Amara studies his wheelchair for exactly 2 seconds. "So, dancing isn't just about moving your feet." Before he can protest, she climbs onto his lap and grabs his hands. "See? We can dance sitting down. You steer, I'll be the fancy moves." The wedding guests form a loose circle around them, phones already recording. Sebastian feels panic rising. The last thing he wants is to become some viral inspiration story that people share to feel better about themselves. But then Amara starts swaying to the music, guiding his hands in rhythm. Her joy is so pure, so infectious, that his anxiety melts away. This isn't about pity or charity. This is just a little girl who wanted to dance and found a creative solution to include her new friend. "You're a pretty good dancer," she declares, spinning his chair slightly to the beat. "You're not bad yourself," he manages, his voice thick with emotion. Around them, the whispers have shifted. The criticism has faded into something softer. Several guests are wiping their eyes. But Sebastian isn't performing for them anymore. For these precious few minutes, the world has shrunk to just him and this extraordinary child who saw him as worthy of her time. The song winds down, and Amara slides off his lap with a theatrical bow. The ballroom erupts in genuine applause. "Thank you for the dance," she says formally, then grins. "Can we do it again at the next song?" Sebastian feels something he thought was broken forever starting to heal. Not his legs, something deeper. His sense of worth. His belief that he might still matter to someone. "Anytime," he whispers. But across the room, Naomi is no longer just watching with maternal concern. She's staring at Sebastian with an expression of dawning recognition. Her face has gone completely white. She fumbles for her phone, scrolling through photos with shaking fingers. When she finds what she's looking for, the device slips from her hand and clatters to the floor. Because the resemblance is unmistakable now that she's really looking. Those same green eyes, that identical smile, the way he holds his head when he's thinking. This isn't a coincidence. 3 days later, Naomi's car winds up the longest driveway she's ever seen. The Harlow estate looms ahead like something from a Gothic novel. Massive iron gates, manicured lawns that stretch for acres, and a mansion that could house 50 families. But despite all its grandeur, the place feels hollow. Dead. "Wow," Amara breathes from her car seat. "It's like a castle." Naomi's hands shake on the steering wheel. She's been debating this visit since the wedding, going back and forth until she finally decided she had to know the truth. The photos on her phone don't lie. The resemblance is too strong to ignore. A butler answers the door, an actual butler, which somehow makes this whole situation feel even more surreal. He escorts them through hallways lined with paintings worth more than most people's houses. But the wealth doesn't hide the emptiness. Every room feels abandoned. No family photos. No personal touches. No signs that anyone actually lives here. They find Sebastian in his study, surrounded by law books and financial documents. He looks up when they enter, and his entire face transforms. Amara. What a wonderful surprise. The little girl runs to him without hesitation, and he lifts her onto his lap like it's the most natural thing in the world. Watching them together, Naomi's suspicions crystallize into certainty. I wanted to thank you properly, Naomi says carefully, for being so kind to her at the wedding. She was kind to me, Sebastian replies. More kind than I deserved. There's pain in his voice that goes deeper than physical injury. This man is drowning in isolation, and her daughter somehow threw him a lifeline. But that's not why she's really here. Sebastian, she begins, then stops. How do you ask someone if they might be your daughter's father? How do you explain that a one-night stand 7 years ago might have created the most important person in both their lives? Especially when that person is now a billionaire who could destroy your entire world with a single phone call. Is everything all right? He asks, noticing her hesitation. Amara is showing him a drawing she made of their dance at the wedding. He studies it with a serious attention you'd give a masterpiece, pointing out details and asking questions that make her beam with pride. The way he looks at her, the way she gravitates toward him, the undeniable physical similarities that become more obvious by the minute. Naomi takes a deep breath. Some secrets are too big to keep buried forever. Subscribe before the truth changes everything, because what she's about to reveal will shatter this man's world in the most beautiful way possible. How long have you lived here alone? Naomi asks while Amara explores the mansion's library. Sebastian's jaw tightens. Most people don't ask direct questions anymore. They dance around his tragedy like it's contagious. 3 years since the accident. But something in Naomi's eyes tells him she wants the real story. Not the sanitized version the newspapers printed. Not the careful statements his lawyers crafted. The truth. I was driving home from closing the biggest deal of my career, he begins, staring out at the empty gardens. $50 billion merger. I was on top of the world, talking to my fiancée about wedding plans. His voice cracks slightly. Even now, the memory feels like swallowing glass. Drunk driver ran a red light. Hit me head-on at 60 miles per hour. Naomi doesn't offer empty platitudes like everyone else. She just listens. Woke up 3 weeks later to find out I'd never walk again. My fiancée visited exactly once to return her engagement ring. Said she couldn't handle being tied to a broken man for the rest of her life. That's horrible, Naomi whispers. That was just the beginning. Sebastian's laugh holds no humor. My business partners smelled blood in the water. Started legal challenges to remove me from my own companies. My friends stopped calling. Invitations dried up overnight. He wheels closer to the window, watching Amara chase butterflies outside. You know what the worst part was? Realizing that everything I thought mattered, my wealth, my connections, my reputation, it was all built on me being useful to people. The second I couldn't give them what they wanted anymore, I became invisible. Naomi studies his profile. Is that why you haven't been seen in public until the wedding? Why would I subject myself to their pity? Or worse, their relief that it happened to me instead of them. The mansion suddenly feels less like a palace and more like a beautiful prison. All this luxury, and he's been living here like a ghost for 3 years. But Amara doesn't see you that way, Naomi says softly. No, she doesn't. Sebastian's expression softens as he watches the little girl through the window. She sees me as someone worth talking to, someone worth dancing with, someone who might have interesting stories. There's wonder in his voice, like he's discovering something revolutionary. When did you last feel that way about yourself? Naomi asks. Sebastian considers this. I'm not sure I ever did. Even before the accident, people wanted something from me. Status, money, connections. Amara just wants my company. Outside, Amara waves at them through the window, her smile brighter than all the crystal chandeliers combined. For the first time in years, Sebastian waves back. Why is everything so quiet here? Amara asks during their second visit, her voice echoing off marble walls. Sebastian pauses. No one's ever asked him that before. I guess I got used to the silence, he admits. That's sad. Houses should have laughter and music and maybe some really good dance parties. Within an hour, she somehow convinced him to put on music while she gives him a tour of his own mansion. But through her eyes. This room is perfect for hide and seek, she declares in the formal dining room that hasn't hosted a meal in 2 years. And this hallway would be amazing for sock sliding. She demonstrates by running and sliding across the polished floors in her sneakers. Sebastian finds himself smiling, actually smiling, as she transforms his mausoleum back into a home. But it's not just Amara's energy that's changing things. It's watching Naomi too. She's not like the people from his old life. She doesn't calculate what she can gain from being here. She doesn't take photos to post on social media. She doesn't ask about his money or his connections. Instead, she notices things. The way dust covers family photos he hasn't looked at in years. How his refrigerator contains only meal delivery containers. The fact that his phone hasn't rung once during their entire visit. When did you last cook a real meal? She asks, running her finger along his unused stove. I don't remember. That's tragic. Cooking is one of life's greatest pleasures. Before he can protest, she's rummaging through his empty cabinets, making a shopping list for their next visit. Not asking permission, just assuming there will be a next visit. The assumption thrills him more than it should. Can we make pancakes shaped like butterflies? Amara calls from where she's spinning in his office chair. Absolutely, Naomi calls back. Sebastian can help flip them. The casual way she includes him, not as a charity case or someone who needs special accommodation, but as an equal participant, makes his throat tight with emotion. Later, as they're leaving, Amara hugs him goodbye. A real hug, not the careful, awkward embraces he's gotten used to from people who act like his wheelchair might bite them. See you tomorrow? She asks hopefully. Tomorrow might be too soon, he starts. It's never too soon for friends, she interrupts with 6-year-old certainty. After they leave, Sebastian sits in his silent mansion. But for the first time, the quiet doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty. He finds himself already counting hours until tomorrow. What is this little girl doing to him? More importantly, what is her mother doing to him? 2 weeks later, Sebastian's calendar, empty for 3 years, suddenly has appointments. 3 p.m., Amara's visit. 4 p.m., teaching her chess. 5 p.m., Naomi's promised cooking lesson. His staff thinks he's lost his mind. His housekeeper keeps asking if she should prepare guest rooms. His driver can't believe someone actually wants to spend time here voluntarily. But Sebastian has never felt more sane. Checkmate. Amara announces, though her king is clearly in danger, and she's moved her queen illegally 3 times. You're getting better. Sebastian lies smoothly, already resetting the board. I know you let me win, she grins. But I like that you make it feel real. This kid sees through everything, yet somehow that makes their friendship more genuine, not less. In the kitchen, Naomi has taken over completely. She's bought actual groceries, reorganized his cabinets, and somehow convinced his chef to take the afternoon off so they can cook like normal people. Normal, Sebastian reflects, is becoming his favorite word. Tell me about your work, he says as Naomi chops vegetables with professional precision. I run a small graphic design studio. Nothing glamorous, but I love helping small businesses tell their stories. And Amara's father? The question slips out before he can stop it. Naomi's knife pauses mid-chop. Not in the picture, she says carefully. Never has been. Something in her tone suggests there's more to that story, but Sebastian doesn't push. Everyone has secrets. He's learned that much. His loss, Sebastian says quietly. Naomi looks up, surprised by the genuine feeling in his voice. They're interrupted by Amara, who's dragged in a collection of board games taller than she is. Family game night, she announces. Sebastian's heart stops. Family. When did he last feel part of a family? Even before the accident, his relationships were transactions. Business dinners, networking events, social obligations. This feels completely different. Comfortable. Real. They play until sunset, laughing over Monopoly disputes and Scrabble challenges that Amara clearly makes up as she goes along. Sebastian finds himself relaxing in ways he'd forgotten were possible. But the most remarkable change isn't in him, it's in his house. The mansion feels alive again. Amara's laughter bounces off walls that once seemed to absorb joy. Naomi's presence makes rooms feel warm instead of empty. Even his staff seems happier, humming as they work. Same time tomorrow, Amara asks as they gather their things. Actually, Sebastian says, surprising himself, what would you think about spending Saturday here? We could use the pool, have a proper barbecue. He trails off, suddenly uncertain. Is he overstepping? Assuming too much? But Naomi smiles. That sounds perfect. As their car disappears down his driveway, Sebastian realizes something that should terrify him. He's becoming attached. Dangerously attached. That night, Naomi can't sleep. She lies in her small apartment, listening to Amara's peaceful breathing from the next room, and wrestles with a growing fear that's eating her alive. What is she doing? Sebastian's world isn't just different from theirs. It's dangerous. She's seen the news articles, the legal battles, the enemies he's made climbing to the top of his empire. Even paralyzed, even withdrawn from public life, he's still a target. Her phone buzzes. A Google alert she set up weeks ago. Sebastian Harlow spotted with mystery woman and child. Billionaire's new family. The photo is grainy, taken through his mansion's gates by some photographer with a telephoto lens. But you can clearly see Amara on his lap, both of them laughing at something off camera. The comment section makes her stomach turn. Gold digger spotted. Poor kid being used to get to his money. Someone's trying to trap the crippled billionaire. Naomi's hands shake as she scrolls. Is this what Amara's life will become? Paparazzi following her to school? Strangers dissecting her every interaction online? People assuming the worst about their motives? She thinks about her daughter's innocence, her pure joy in friendship, her complete inability to understand why adults complicate everything. How long before Sebastian's world destroys that? But then she remembers this afternoon. The way Sebastian's face lit up when Amara ran to hug him. How naturally he included her in conversations, never talking down to her despite their age difference. The careful way he helped her reach game pieces without making her feel small. He's not using Amara. If anything, she's saving him. But what if his enemies decide to hurt him through her? What if business rivals see a 6-year-old girl as leverage? What if his ex-fiancée returns and views Amara as competition for his attention? Naomi's protective instincts war with her growing feelings. Because that's the other problem she can't ignore. She's falling for him. Not his money. She couldn't care less about his wealth. But the man underneath the tragedy, the person Amara somehow discovered buried beneath layers of pain and isolation. The way he listens when she talks about her work. How he remembers small details about her life. The respect he shows her as a single mother trying to build something meaningful. She's never met anyone like him. But loving him might be the most dangerous thing she could do to her daughter. The next morning, Amara bounces into her room at dawn. Can we go see Sebastian early today? I want to show him my new drawing. Naomi looks at her daughter's radiant face and makes a decision that might break both their hearts. Sweetheart, we need to talk. What would you do? Protect your child from a dangerous world, or fight for a love that might transform all your lives? Comment below, because this mother's choice will determine everyone's fate. The video appears on Instagram at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Someone at the wedding finally decided to cash in on the footage they captured. 30 seconds of Sebastian and Amara dancing in his wheelchair, her tiny hands guiding his. both of them lost in pure joy. The caption reads, "Billionaire Sebastian Harlow's first public appearance since his accident. This little girl brought him back to life." By sunrise, it has 50,000 views. By noon, it's trending worldwide. The internet explodes. Hashtag Billionaire Smiles becomes the top hashtag across 3 platforms. News outlets scramble for the story behind the story. Comment sections overflow with emotions people can't contain. "I'm literally crying at my desk. Faith in humanity restored." This is why children are angels. But it's not just feel-good shares. Major media outlets smell a story that could dominate news cycles for weeks. Fallen Titan finds hope. New York Times, the comeback kid who saved a billionaire. People magazine. Sebastian Harlow's mystery angel. TMZ. Sebastian's phone, silent for 3 years, now rings constantly. His assistant fields calls from every major network, documentary filmmakers, book publishers, and motivational speaking agencies. But the call that changes everything comes from his former business rival, Marcus Vail, the man who tried to steal Sebastian's companies during his recovery. Saw the video, old friend. Quite the turnaround story. Perhaps we should discuss some new ventures. Sebastian hangs up without responding. The vultures are circling again. Not because they care about his healing, but because his story has market value now. His pain has become profitable. Meanwhile, Naomi discovers the video when her sister calls her, sobbing. "Have you seen this? It's Amara. She's everywhere." Naomi's stomach drops as she watches her daughter become an international sensation without her knowledge or consent. The comments about Amara make her blood boil. Someone needs to protect this sweet child from gold diggers. Hope the mom isn't using her to get to his money. That little girl saved his soul. Saved his soul? Amara is 6 years old. She shouldn't be responsible for anyone's salvation. Her phone starts ringing. Producers, reporters, talent agents. People who want to turn her daughter into a commodity. We'd love to interview the little girl who melted America's heart. Has she considered child modeling? This kind of publicity is priceless. Would your daughter be interested in appearing on our morning show? Naomi turns off her phone and holds Amara closer. Her daughter is still sleeping peacefully, unaware that she's become famous overnight. Unaware that millions of strangers now feel entitled to opinions about her life. Subscribe now, because what happens when innocence collides with fame will test everyone's true character. By Thursday, photographers camp outside Sebastian's gates. By Friday, they found Naomi's apartment. Amara presses her face to the window, confused by the crowd with cameras below. "Why are all those people here, Mommy?" Naomi's heart breaks. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her simple act of kindness has turned her into public property? "They want to ask us questions about our friend Sebastian." That's silly. If they want to know about him, they should just ask him themselves. If only it were that simple. Sebastian's mansion has transformed back into a fortress, but this time he's not hiding from shame. He's protecting something precious. Security guards patrol the grounds. His legal team issues statements about privacy and harassment. But the damage is spreading. Naomi gets a call from Amara's school principal. "Ms. Bennett, we've had reporters trying to interview students about Amara. We've increased security, but I wanted you to know." At the grocery store, strangers approach them with phones recording. "Are you the mom from the billionaire video? Can we get a selfie? How long have you known Sebastian Harlow? Is it true you're dating him?" Amara clings to Naomi's leg, overwhelmed by the attention from adults who aren't being kind, just invasive. That evening, Sebastian calls. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted this for either of you." "It's not your fault," Naomi says, though part of her wonders if getting involved with him was the biggest mistake of her life. "I want to help. My security team can provide protection." "Sebastian, we can't live like prisoners. This is exactly what I was afraid of." The conversation she's been dreading arrives sooner than expected. 3 major networks offer her interview fees that would pay off her student loans, and set up Amara's college fund. Exclusive rights to your story, the producer explains. America loves you both. This could set your family up for life. The temptation is real. Single motherhood is financially brutal. This money could solve every problem she's carried for years. But at what cost to her daughter? That night, she finds Amara drawing pictures of herself surrounded by people with cameras. I don't like all those picture takers, Amara confesses. They're loud and they don't smile real smiles. You don't have to talk to them if you don't want to. But they keep asking about Sebastian. Are they making him sad again? That question cuts deeper than any reporter's intrusion. Amara isn't thinking about herself. She's worried about protecting the man who was finally learning to smile again. I think they might be, Naomi admits. Then we should go see him. Friends help friends when they're scared. Sometimes 6-year-old wisdom cuts straight to the truth. But is friendship enough to survive the media hurricane that's about to tear their world apart? The envelope arrives on Monday morning. No return address. Just Naomi's name written in elegant script. Inside, a check for $100,000 and a single-page contract. Exclusive tell-all rights to your relationship with Sebastian Harlow. Additional bonuses for photos, personal details, and future access. Naomi stares at more money than she's ever seen in one place. Her student loan balance, $47,000. Her credit card debt, $8,500. Amara's preschool costs, $1,200 monthly. This check would solve everything. They could move to a safer neighborhood. Amara could attend private school. Naomi could finally stop choosing between groceries and gas money. All she has to do is sell their story. Her phone buzzes with a text from Sebastian. Can we meet? I need to explain something important. They arrange to meet at a small cafe outside the city, away from photographers. Sebastian arrives with his security detail, drawing stares from other customers despite their attempts at privacy. I never wanted any of this, he says immediately. The attention, the circus. But you're not exactly hiding from it either, Naomi interrupts. Your publicist called me yesterday. You're considering interviews. Sebastian's jaw tightens. My board is pressuring me. Stock prices are up 20% since the video went viral. Investors see a comeback story, a humanized brand. They want me to capitalize on it. Capitalize on it? Naomi's voice rises. We're not a brand, Sebastian. Amara isn't your redemption story. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Think about it. 3 years of isolation. Then suddenly a little girl makes you smile, and now everyone wants a piece of you again. How convenient. The words hang between them like a blade. You think I'm using her, Sebastian says quietly. I think you're a billionaire who's used to getting what he wants. And right now, what you want is your old life back. That's not fair. Fair. Naomi laughs bitterly. You want to know what's not fair? Photographers following my daughter to school. Strangers offering me money to betray your trust. Having to explain to a 6-year-old why adults are being mean about her friendship. She slides the contract across the table. 3 different publications have made offers. This is the highest one. Sebastian's face goes pale as he reads the terms. You're going to take it. I'm considering it. Do you know how many problems this would solve for us? How many opportunities this could create for Amara's future? It would also destroy any trust between us. Would it? Or would it just make our arrangement more honest? You get your comeback story. I get financial security. Everyone wins. Sebastian stares at the contract like it's a death sentence. What if I matched the offer? What if I paid you the same amount to keep our story private? Then you'd be buying my silence instead of my story. Either way, this becomes about money. The truth hits them both simultaneously. Their relationship has already changed forever. Sebastian makes a decision that surprises everyone, including himself. If we're going to tell our story, we tell it our way. He calls the most respected journalist in the country, Diana Chen from 60 Minutes. Not a tabloid show hunting for drama, but someone who might handle their story with dignity. I'll do one interview. One time only. But I have conditions. Condition 1. Naomi and Amara must agree to participate. Condition 2. No questions about his accident or medical details. Condition 3. The focus stays on friendship, not romance or tragedy. When he presents the idea to Naomi, she's skeptical. You want to put Amara on national television? I want to control the narrative before someone else does. Right now, we're victims of other people's stories. This gives us the chance to tell the truth. And what is the truth? Sebastian looks directly at her. That a little girl saw someone who needed a friend and offered her friendship without expecting anything in return. That sometimes the most profound connections happen in the most unexpected ways. He pauses. And that her mother showed me it's possible to build something real, even when the world is watching. The interview tapes on a Tuesday afternoon in Sebastian's garden. Diana Chun, known for making politicians squirm, handles Amara with remarkable gentleness. What did you think when you first saw Sebastian at the wedding? She asks. He looked lonely, Amara says simply. Nobody likes feeling lonely. And what do you like most about spending time with him? He listens to my stories. And he's really good at making funny voices when we read books. The magic happens when the cameras capture them just being themselves. Sebastian teaching Amara chess moves, both of them dissolving into giggles when she tries to make her knight jump over all the other pieces at once. Naomi watches the interaction with something close to wonder. This isn't performed for the cameras. This is exactly how they are together every day. When Diana asks about their future, Sebastian gives the answer that will dominate headlines for weeks. Amara taught me that healing isn't about returning to who you were before. It's about discovering who you can become after. I'm not the same man I was 3 years ago, and I don't want to be. The interview airs on Sunday night to 43 million viewers. The response is overwhelming. Social media floods with support. Sebastian's former enemies, seeing the genuine nature of the relationship, back off their attacks. Even his ex-fiancée releases a statement wishing him well. But most importantly, the circus atmosphere fades. The story becomes less about scandal and more about the simple truth that connection heals. However, in a Manhattan boardroom, 3 men in expensive suits are watching the interview with very different intentions. He's vulnerable now, one says. Distracted. This might be our only chance to finish what we started. What they're planning could destroy everything Sebastian has rebuilt. Subscribe before the enemies strike, because not everyone wants this comeback story to have a happy ending. Marcus Devereaux watches the 60 Minutes interview from his penthouse office, nursing a glass of whiskey that costs more than most people's monthly salary. 3 years ago, when Sebastian's accident happened, Marcus saw opportunity. He'd been Sebastian's biggest competitor for decades, always finishing second in deals, always losing clients to Sebastian's charm and ruthless intelligence. The accident changed everything. Marcus swooped in, buying up Sebastian's struggling assets, poaching his best employees, stealing contracts that should have been renewals. He built his empire on Sebastian's broken foundation. Now Sebastian is smiling again, laughing again. The interview made him sympathetic, human, relatable. Stock prices are recovering. Investors are calling. Marcus can't let that happen. Sir. His assistant appears in the doorway. You wanted to see the research on Naomi Bennett. The file is thick. Credit reports, employment history, social media analysis, interviews with former neighbors. Marcus's private investigators have been thorough. Single mother, student loan debt, works 2 jobs to make ends meet. No father on Amara's birth certificate. A few speeding tickets, 1 eviction notice from 2019, multiple applications for financial aid. In other words, vulnerable. Marcus picks up his phone and dials a number he hasn't used in years. TMZ? This is Marcus Devereaux. I have a story that might interest you. The narrative he spins is masterful in its cruelty. A desperate single mother targets a vulnerable billionaire at his lowest point. She uses her innocent daughter as bait, knowing a man starved for human connection would be easy prey. The whole friendship is calculated manipulation designed to secure financial benefits. Think about it, Marcus tells the eager reporter. This woman appears out of nowhere right when he's most emotionally fragile. Her daughter just happens to approach him at a wedding? What are the odds? This is textbook predatory behavior. He provides documentation of Naomi's financial struggles, her applications for assistance programs, her mounting debt. All true, all public record, all twisted into evidence of malicious intent. Sebastian Harlow built his fortune by being ruthless and calculating. Now someone's using those same tactics against him. The real tragedy here isn't his accident. It's watching a vulnerable man being manipulated by someone who saw dollar signs instead of a person. The story publishes at midnight. By 6 a.m., it's trending across every platform. Hashtag Gold Digger Alert. Hashtag Billionaire Bait. Hashtag Fake Kindness. The comments are vicious. Finally, someone exposes the scam. Poor Sebastian getting played by a professional victim. That little girl is being used as a weapon. Marcus leans back in his chair, satisfied. He's just weaponized the internet against Sebastian's newfound happiness. But he's not finished yet. The next phase will destroy not just Sebastian's reputation, but the innocent family caught in the crossfire. Some victories require collateral damage. Marcus has never minded getting his hands dirty. After all, business is war, and he intends to win. Naomi wakes up to her phone buzzing with notifications she never wanted to see. The first text comes from her sister. Check the news. Now. The second from her boss. We need to talk. The third from a number she doesn't recognize. How much did the cripple pay you? Her hands shake as she opens the TMZ article that's been shared 200,000 times in 6 hours. Gold digger exposed. Single mom's calculated attack on vulnerable billionaire. The photos make her sick. Pictures of her apartment building, captioned as modest housing that suddenly wasn't enough. Screenshots of her financial aid applications, presented as evidence of desperation. Credit reports that show her struggle to pay for Amara's preschool, twisted into proof of malicious intent. But the worst part isn't about her. It's about Amara. Someone created memes. Actual memes using her 6-year-old daughter's face. Professional wingman shows Amara approaching Sebastian's wheelchair with fake dollar signs in her eyes. Training Starts Young features her daughter's innocent smile with the caption, "How to Trap a Billionaire in 3 Easy Steps." Future Gold Digger Academy graduate uses the photo from their chess game, making her baby look calculating and manipulative. Naomi runs to the bathroom and throws up. Her phone rings constantly. Reporters wanting statements. Former friends wanting to know if the rumors are true. Strangers calling to share their opinions about her parenting. The worst call comes from Amara's school. "Ms. Bennett, I'm afraid some parents are concerned about the situation. Several have requested their children be moved to different classes. We think it might be best if Amara stayed home for a few days until this settles down. You're suspending my daughter for being kind to someone. We're protecting her from a difficult situation. Protecting her by punishing her for showing compassion to a lonely man." When Amara comes home from her playdate, Naomi tries to shield her from the chaos. But 6-year-olds notice everything. "Why do you look sad, Mommy? Some people are saying mean things about us. About our friendship with Sebastian? How do you explain to a child that adults can take something pure and turn it into something ugly? That her simple act of kindness has been twisted into evidence of some master manipulation plan? They don't understand that we just care about him. Should we go see Sebastian? Maybe he's sad too." That's when Naomi realizes the full horror of what's happening. Amara still wants to protect Sebastian, even as the world crucifies them both. Her phone buzzes with a text from Sebastian. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted this for you." Then another. "My lawyers are handling this. I'll make them stop. Then, please don't let this destroy what we have." But looking at her daughter's confused face, at the memes mocking her baby's innocence, at the complete destruction of their privacy and peace, Naomi knows something has already been destroyed. Not their caring for Sebastian, but their ability to express it safely. The world has decided they're villains in someone else's story, and fighting that narrative might cost them everything they have left. Sometimes the cruelest weapon isn't a lie. It's the truth, twisted until it becomes something monstrous. Sebastian's emergency board meeting happens on a Tuesday morning that feels like the end of the world. 12 faces around a mahogany table, all watching him like he's lost his mind instead of found his heart. Stock price dropped 18% overnight, his CFO reports. Investors are pulling out. The Hartwell deal is off the table. Public sentiment has completely reversed, adds his head of communications. The narrative has shifted from inspiring comeback to billionaire being scammed by desperate woman. Board member after board member piles on. The consensus is clear. Sebastian's judgment is compromised. His emotional state makes him a liability to shareholders. "We think it's best if you step back from day-to-day operations," the chairman says with false sympathy, "until this situation resolves itself." Sebastian grips his wheelchair armrests. "You want to remove me from my own company because I made friends with a child. We want to protect the company from your poor decision-making. This woman has clearly manipulated you. Naomi has never asked me for anything. Not once." Then explain her financial desperation. Explain why she targeted you specifically. She didn't target anyone. Her daughter saw someone who looked lonely. The room falls silent. Even Sebastian hears how naive that sounds in the context of corporate boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. "Sebastian," the chairman says gently, "we've all seen the evidence. The timing, her debts, her calculated approach. You're too close to see what everyone else can see clearly." That afternoon, Sebastian tries calling Naomi. Straight to voicemail. He tries again. Same result. By evening, he's desperate enough to drive to her apartment building. The paparazzi follow him, cameras flashing as he transfers to his wheelchair. "Sebastian, any comment on the gold digger allegations? Are you pressing charges against Naomi Bennett? Do you feel stupid for being manipulated?" He makes it to her door and knocks. Silence. "Naomi? It's me. Please, let's talk about this." More silence. Through the thin walls, he hears Amara's voice. "Is that Sebastian? Can we let him in?" "Not right now, sweetheart." Naomi's voice is barely audible. We can't see him anymore." Sebastian feels something break inside his chest. "Naomi, please. Don't let them destroy this. Don't let them win." "They already won," comes the muffled reply. "Look what knowing you has done to my daughter. Look at what they're saying about her." He sits outside her door for 2 hours, hoping she'll change her mind. She doesn't. The ride home is the longest of his life. Longer than the ambulance trip after his accident. Longer than the divorce proceedings. Longer than any of the nights he spent alone in his mansion. Because this time, he's not just losing his legs or his wife or his business empire. He's losing the people who made him remember what it felt like to be human. Back in his mansion, he wheels himself to the library where he and Amara played chess just days ago. The board is still set up from their last game, her pieces scattered in impossible positions because she liked the way they looked better than following the rules. He sweeps the pieces to the floor and puts his head in his hands. Some fairy tales don't get happy endings after all. 6 weeks later, Sebastian sits in the same corner where this story began. Another wedding. Another wheelchair positioned carefully out of everyone's way. Another evening of being politely ignored by people who once fought for his attention. full circle. The difference is that now he knows what he's missing. Before Amara and Naomi, the isolation was just his reality. Now it's a wound that won't heal. The memes have mostly died down. The news cycle moved on to other scandals. But the damage lingers like radiation poisoning. His board succeeded in pushing him to the margins of his own company. He still owns it, but they've made it clear that his emotional instability makes him unsuitable for major decisions. Naomi changed her phone number, moved to a different apartment, enrolled Amara in a private school across town using money from a settlement his lawyers negotiated to stop the harassment. They vanished from his life as completely as if they'd never existed, except for the chess set he can't bring himself to put away, and the drawing Amara made of their wedding dance, still hanging on his refrigerator. And the way silence sounds different now, not peaceful, but empty. Tonight's wedding is for his former business partner's daughter. He almost didn't come, but hiding forever felt like admitting defeat. So here he sits, watching other people celebrate love while drowning in the absence of it. A little boy, maybe 7 years old, approaches his wheelchair. Sebastian's heart stops. "Hi," the boy says simply. "You look sad." For a moment, Sebastian thinks about Amara, about her 6-year-old courage in walking up to a stranger she thought looked lonely. "I am a little sad," Sebastian admits. "My grandma says when people look sad, we should ask if they want to talk about it." Sebastian studies this child's face. Open, curious, kind, just like Amara's was. That's very wise advice from your grandma. "So, do you want to talk about it?" Sebastian considers telling this boy about a little girl who taught him how to smile again, about a woman who showed him what real connection felt like, about how the world can destroy beautiful things just because they don't understand them. Instead, he says, "I made some friends who meant everything to me, but I lost them." "Did you say sorry?" "I tried to. They couldn't hear me." The boy thinks about this with the seriousness that only children can bring to important problems. "Maybe you didn't say it loud enough." Before Sebastian can respond, the boy's mother appears, looking embarrassed. "Tyler, come away from there. You're bothering the man." "He's not bothering me," Sebastian says quickly. But Tyler's already being pulled back to his family, leaving Sebastian alone again. "Maybe you didn't say it loud enough." 7-year-old wisdom cutting straight to the truth. Sebastian has spent weeks respecting Naomi's boundaries, giving her space, accepting her decision to protect Amara. But maybe that's not what love does. Maybe love fights harder. Subscribe now, because sometimes the greatest battles are fought not for empires, but for the right to love and be loved. The TV studio was a pressure cooker of judgment. A panel of so-called experts, all of them in expensive suits and with smug expressions, took turns dissecting Sebastian's story. The host, a man with a smile that never reached his eyes, called it a textbook case of emotional manipulation. The gold digger narrative had returned with a vengeance, fueled by Marcus Devereaux's lies. Sebastian sat alone in his living room, his remote still in his hand from when he turned on the broadcast. He had told Naomi and Amara to stay away, to protect them from this ugliness. But as he watched, helpless to defend himself, his chest tightened with a rage he hadn't felt since his accident. "He's a fool who let himself be played," one critic sneered. "He's lost his company and his dignity." The world saw him as a tragic hero, but it turns out he's just a mark. Naomi and Amara were watching the broadcast at their apartment. Amara's small face was crumpled with confusion. "They're being mean," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They're making him sad again." "Don't listen, sweetheart," Naomi said, her own voice thick with fury. "They don't know what they're talking about." But Amara's 6-year-old wisdom cut through the noise. "I can tell them," she said, her eyes suddenly blazing with a pure, simple conviction. Before Naomi could stop her, Amara grabbed the phone. She had memorized Sebastian's number. She'd always been a fast learner. "Sebastian, you need to put me on the TV." They're saying bad things about you." Sebastian's hand froze as the call came through. He quickly answered and put the phone on speaker, bewildered. Amara's voice, small but impossibly clear, echoed in the silent room. "Everyone, listen to me," she said, her voice carrying over the host's smug monologue. "He's not a fool. He's my date. He's my friend. He's not alone." A stunned silence fell over the studio. The host's eyes went wide. The critics stopped mid-sentence. They were all listening now. And then Amara's voice, filled with an impossible courage, continued. "They're wrong. Sebastian is the best. He teaches me how to play chess, and he's really good at making funny voices. He makes me happy, and I make him happy. Friends help each other." On live television, a single tear rolled down Sebastian's cheek. He had been fighting for his reputation, his company, his power. But this little girl was fighting for something else entirely: his humanity. Her words, so simple and true, were an arrow piercing 1,000 layers of cynicism and malice. The broadcast cut to a commercial break, but it was already too late. The audience, moved by Amara's raw, unfiltered love, had already spoken. The internet exploded. The gold digger narrative was replaced by a wave of emotional support that no amount of public relations or damage control could have bought. Suddenly, Sebastian was no longer a tragic billionaire. He was a man who had a 6-year-old girl in his corner, defending him against the world. He had a family, and for the first time in years, he realized that he wasn't alone. But what would he do with this newfound power? Comment below. Now that the world is listening, what is Sebastian's next move? Does he use this power to get revenge, or does he choose a different path entirely? Sebastian didn't ask for revenge. He didn't need it. The public support had given him something more powerful: the truth. And with that, he went to war. Not with threats or manipulations, but with a quiet, unrelenting resolve. He convened a press conference. Flanked by his lawyers and Naomi's legal team, he announced his intention to sue Marcus Devereaux for defamation. He had a mountain of evidence, and the world was watching. Within a week, Marcus's business partners, fearing public backlash, turned on him. The man who had built an empire on Sebastian's broken foundation was now a social pariah, his business in shambles. Justice had been served. With his name cleared and public trust restored, Sebastian's board had no choice but to welcome him back. He didn't just regain his position, he redefined it. He changed the company's mission from profit above all to people above all, launching foundations for children's hospitals and disability research. He was a new man, and his business would reflect that. He never used a cent of his money to help Naomi. He never had to. Her graphic design studio's phone rang off the hook. Her clients loved her story, and they wanted a piece of her authentic, kind heart. She was a success, and she had done it all on her own. The lies had set her free. Most importantly, Sebastian redefined what it meant to be a family. He didn't get married in a big, extravagant wedding. Instead, he simply became a father and a partner. He was there for Amara's first day of school, her school plays, and her every triumph and failure. He was there for Naomi, a partner to share life's joys and burdens. The final scene took place months later. Another wedding. This time, the grand ballroom was filled with laughter and love. Sebastian was there, in his wheelchair, but he wasn't alone. Amara, now a flower girl, twirled on the dance floor, her sunflower yellow dress swirling around her. Naomi stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, a look of profound love on her face. He watched them, and a powerful emotion filled him. He was no longer defined by his past or his wealth or his broken body. He was defined by the family he had found. He smiled, not out of pity, but triumph. He had lost everything, but in doing so, he had gained the only thing that truly mattered. He had found love. What about you? What do you think is the true meaning of a family? Subscribe to our channel to find more stories that show the greatest treasures aren't what you have, but who you have.